EU, and especially at the Council of Europe, where I spoke just 2 weeks ago, and where I attended a meeting where the President of Turkey and the Minister of Foreign Affairs spoke. And I can show you like thousands of pictures of all that, but it's not the topic of today. Last thing is we participate in conferences or we organize them ourselves. Here you see a picture of this Kifa Symposium, the first one last year in May. And we also have held lectures, for example, at Diyarbakir University, in the Middle East, in Turkey, in the USA, in Australia, and all over Europe. Now, let me come to the actual topic of today, the mission. First, I will tell you about the mission of the Syriac Universal Alliance very briefly, and then I will tell you a bit more about the mission of our ancestors. Now, the mission of the Syriac Universal Alliance is very simple. What we try to do is to listen to the needs of our people. And after doing that, we have discussed intensively how we can serve our people with the most sincerest intentions. First of all, we have said to ourselves, what we want is to work for the human rights, the social rights, and all other fundamental human rights of our people, for the freedom or the liberty of our people, and one can also add the dignity of our people and the equality of our people. We have mistreated for many, many centuries. Up till the present hour, we are continue to being discriminated and persecuted and being killed, all in front of the naked eye of the world community, and nobody is acting upon that. So that's why we have said it's our mission to serve our people in this area, because we know that our church leaders, how much we love them, as much as we respect them, we know that in the Middle East they do not work on these things. When they sit with the minister, they don't talk, they don't dare to talk openly. When a delegation from Europe visits our people in Turkey, they don't dare to tell the full truth. When they meet people here in Europe, when they meet our people, of course they will tell you the truth, but when it comes to the point that they really can make a change and lobby for our questions, unfortunately the church is not pushing for it. The other thing is, we have said to ourselves we want to preserve, safeguard. We also want to develop, utveckling, I think you say in Swedish, and we want to promote, make known our rich cultural heritage to the world. I can talk also for hours about this, but briefly, one can say that we have like a rich fountain from which we can draw a lot of strength and inspiration to get to know ourselves better and to make the right decisions for the future. And that's why we want to protect our cultural heritage and also develop it, because if you just put it in a freezer, then as we say in Dutch, like if you well, like standing still is like stagnation. You move backwards. And that's like putting or if we say like we want to protect our language, it's not enough. We need to develop it. Add your 2 cents to it. Contribute to it, and I think that will make our ancestors proud of us. Ensuring justice. This implies that injustice is being done to our people. As we see today at this very moment in Turkey and in Iraq. And by mentioning only Turkey and Iraq, I don't need to explain the details, because you already have all the associations of killings, murders, and kidnappings, and rapes, and all those other horrific things. Another thing which we have said to ourselves is, we want to unite all our people, coordinate them, organize them as a self-determined and internationally recognized Aramean nation. Now, why self-determined? If we really say to ourselves we are people, we should be a free people. And a free people means, among others, that we are the ones who should write our own history, and that we are the ones who should write our own destiny. We should not let other people, foreign people, put their agendas on our agenda. We should be free as a people to write our own history, to show the world who we are without the interference of others. We should be the ones who make decisions for ourselves. We should be the ones who should dream about something and pursue that dream. We do not want, at least with the Syriac Universal Alliance, that other people decide for us what to dream about and what not to dream about. Now, this is the mission of the Syriac Universal Alliance. I can talk for hours as well, as you can notice, about our ancestors. I just very briefly want to quote something that a scholar has written about the Arameans in pre-Christian times and in Christian times. He says the Greeks and the Romans and the whole European civilization is actually based on all the knowledge and scientific thought and thinking of the Greeks and the Romans, and all architecture and a lot more. But the Greeks and the Romans knew the Near East mainly through the Arameans, he says. For it was they who united and canalized or passed through the sources of its culture, bringing together Babylonian, Persian and Hebrew elements and transmitting, so passing them on to Christianity, and with Christianity to the West. And from the West, at a later date, he says, the Arameans, and here he means the Syrian Orthodox and the Nestorians, were to bring to the East Greek culture and especially philosophy, including medicine and a lot more sciences, which became known to the Arabs through the medium of Aramaic. Now, why did I mention here mission? It's because we should understand ourselves very, very clearly. Why? If we talk about the mission explains who you are. Why do you exist? What is your purpose in this life? Or if you see that our ancestors were capable of contributing something historical to world civilization and to their own civilizations, then you would know and recognize instantly that first of all they understood themselves. They appreciated their own heritage, their own identity. And because of that, they also understood their position in this world, and that's why they could contribute something to this world. Because they were self-confident, they believed in themselves. They believed that they had something to give to this world. And mind you, that our ancestors, both in pre-Christian times and in Christian times, when they didn't give, when they contributed something big and great to world civilization, both those times were in a situation when we had no state of our own. We, in a stateless situation, our ancestors contributed to empires, to large states. And we can do the same today if we just believe in ourselves. Because, and this is my personal conviction, because I think that even though identity changes throughout the centuries, throughout the decades, because identity is not a static concept, it's a dynamic concept. It constantly transforms itself. But what I do believe is that the kernel, the core identity of our people in ancient times and today is still the same. And if we just understand ourselves, our own history and our own identity, again the cultural heritage, then I believe again we can be free, breathe, and finally our capacities will come to the fore, and then we can contribute again something to this world. Now, Quo vadis, Suryoyo, Leikuna Azole, where are we going to as a people? Now, I have selected just 3 national characteristics of the ancient Arameans. First of all, and when I say this, every single Aramean in this room will recognize what I'm going to say. The Arameans are a hard-working people. They're ambitious, always zealous, and they're tradesmen. Like the Jews sometimes. They're entrepreneurs. Not only in business, but also in culture. We can also be cultural entrepreneurs. So this entrepreneurial attitude of ours, if we understand it, appreciate it, it can make a difference for us today too. We can use it. The second thing that's characteristics of the ancient Arameans is, if you remember that quote I just mentioned, is that the Arameans were capable of absorbing different elements, religious, linguistic, cultural. They absorbed it and transformed it into an Aramean identity. But again, the kernel, the core of the Aramean identity is Aramean. Look at Toroyo. It's full with different languages. Arabic, Kurdish, Turkish, and today even European, Greek. But the language itself, the paradigm, is Aramaic. And this is with our identity too. So we have in ourselves, this assimilatory power, or what I call it also sometimes, the integrative character. We can easily integrate into societies. There is no Aramean whom I know who speaks less than 2 languages. Most of us know more than 2 languages. And this is also characteristics of who we are as a people. We always want to absorb things, we want to learn things, we are curious, and we are an industrious people, and we always want to improve ourselves. The third thing, and this is maybe an unfortunate thing, is that if you look at the ancient Arameans, there were different city-states, different tribes, and you can see the same characteristics today too. Instead of uniting themselves, they could have established a great empire, but instead they had like 50 tribes, city-states, and local empires. Now we should take a lesson from this and change this mentality of ours. We should be concerned